Like there's something about being in a group of 3 Latina women having a little coffee together in person that they just open up.
I'm wondering what your experience has been in a tight-knit circle as compared to a larger group. Cynthia Kleinbaum is a transformative leader in female empowerment and in marketing. In 2023, armed with her empowerment mindset, she launched the podcast A La Latina, Succeed in Being Your Authentic Self, aimed at increasing Latina representation in corporate America's C-suite by interviewing top CEO trailblazers. Cynthia is hoping that these high-level executives can inspire and inform those Latina women that want to reach the top and don't quite know how to navigate the corporate ladder. Welcome, Cynthia Kleinbaum. How are you today?
Thank you, Terry. Thank you. I'm great. I'm super happy to be here. Finally, we scheduled it like 6 months ago. So thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. This is going to be such a great episode. So Cynthia Kleinbaum is a transformative leader in the marketing and female empowerment industry. And in 2023, this is what I love most, Cynthia has launched the podcast A La Latina, and it's about the playbook to succeed being your authentic self. And it's aimed to increase Latina representation in corporate America's C-suite.
Yes, exactly.
Cynthia, tell us a little bit about how you got to this place.
I mean, you called me a transformative leader. And the reason I like that phrase, it's because since my first job in marketing at Nestle, I became the person that changed the course of a brand because they would give me the brands that were underperforming, or they would give me the teams that were underperforming. And I repositioned or relaunched or rebuilt teams in small companies and big companies through over 20 years of marketing career. I've worked in many companies, in Nestle, in Boston Consulting Group, Guild Group, the original flash sales site, Bonobos. And the last 2 companies in which I did this were really the ones that set me up to be able to do A La Latina. One of them was Walmart, where I built the teams that drove digital transformation. It was a time in which Walmart was moving from being an in-person retailer to more of an omni-channel retailer. And that required a lot of rethinking how we did marketing and the tools and the people that we needed. And then the last job I had was Chief Marketing Officer at Money Lion, which is a publicly traded fintech that is leveling the playing field so every American can get access to financial products and financial freedom. And these 20 years of learning how you climb the corporate ladder, of making mistakes, and of really reflecting were what got me to take this responsibility that now I have of opening the door to the next generation of Latinas.
Kudos to you, really. I think it's remarkable that you and many other Latinas have a voice now and certainly using it to promote the Latina females to really step up. Tell us how you really put both feet in the water when you chose to do A La Latina.
I think it's a beautiful story that really shows everyone, and it showed me that if you tell people your dreams, they will help you make them come true. This idea came to me because I was at Walmart, and there's a lot of Latina women at Walmart, but not that many in the corporate side of the company. And I became part of the employee group that engages with Latinas. And I was getting in conversations with women at the early stages in their career or in parts of the organization where there's a lot of Latinas, but not a lot of movement up, the stores, the warehouses. And they would ask me for advice, for mentorship. And I realized that I didn't have a playbook to give them. So I wanted to have a playbook and I wanted to make it widely available. That's how it started. And I told this to a friend. We were doing a fellowship together. I told her, I'm going to do a podcast. I'm going to interview the few Latinas that are at the top of corporate America to get their playbook so we can share it broadly, originally with the Walmart Latinas in earlier stages of their career. And she introduced me to a woman who is arguably one of the most influential people in the US driving the agenda to increase representation of Latinos in the workplace. Her name is Claudia Romo Edelman. She had just finished a project called the Hispanic Promise, through which hundreds of the most important CEOs in the US signed a pledge to hire and promote more Latinos. So I met her, I told her my dream, my goal, and we agreed to do it together. And the rest is history. We became co-hosts, and we are now entering this week, actually, when this podcast is published, our third season. We have been lucky to get every senior Latina in the C-suite in Fortune 500 has been in our podcast. And there's something about being in a group of 3 Latina women having a little coffee together in person that they just open up, and they have been very authentic themselves, sharing the ups and downs, what's been difficult and what has been easier than they expected, because there's also some of that. So that's how it came to be. I told people my dreams and everybody said, I will help you. I'll help you produce it. I'll help you distribute it. It's been just amazing.
Wow. Now that is a true effort that got started and has grown. So when we look at the Latina community in corporate America, what's the ratio? Do you see there being a growth pattern?
Yeah. I mean, the numbers are honestly pretty depressing, because 8% of the population is Latina and only 1% of the C-suite in corporate America are Latina. This is despite education being at a much higher rate. So now the graduation rate of Latinas, it's 8%. So we graduate at the rate that we should be graduating. We enter the workforce at the rate that we should be entering. But something happens between the moment of entry level and obviously C-suite, but it's more at the early level that we lose a lot of women. The first promotion, the first becoming a manager, Latinas are being left behind. And it is in part because Latinas don't put themselves in the process. They don't raise their hand and they say, I want to get that position. But it's also in part because there's a lot of stereotypes that prevent Latinas from being considered for those roles.
Can you elaborate on these stereotypes?
Yeah. There's 3 major stereotypes that are different. We have the same stereotypes as any other woman, the same glass ceiling that any other woman has, but we have a little extra, a little cherry on the top. One of them is that we are family oriented. And there's this misconception that if you are very committed to your family, then how can you be committed to your work? And the way that we're debunking this, it's seeing how the next generation, Gen Z, which is a newer generation in the workforce, wants to be led. They don't want to be led with a whip. They want to be led with empathy. So when you bring somebody that is a mother and that has motherly characteristics to her leadership style, it actually creates a really positive environment where people want to contribute and want to put in extra hours, not because they are forced to, but because they feel the connection, they feel that the leader cares. One awesome example is one of our guests in season 1, Nanette Cosero. She was the president of Pfizer vaccines during COVID. And she was telling us how difficult it was to get a global workforce working many extra hours every day to develop the COVID vaccine in record time. And she attributes having a Latina leader as one of the reasons why people were just really energized and working hard. And even though it was stressful and there was burnout, she was able to manage it because she led like a mother. So that's one of the stereotypes. The second stereotype is the accent. Women like me, first generation Latinas, we just came to the country. Of course, my kids are going to speak English perfect, no accent. But women like me have an accent, and we have been told, all of us, with that accent, you're not going to get anywhere. There was also one guest, I think she was our first guest, Ariana Stollarts. She's the chief strategy officer of Accenture Song. She's a very accomplished Latina who earlier in her career was told, if you don't get rid of your accent, you're not going to succeed. And that limited her for many years. She didn't speak up in meetings. It happened the same to me. Being bilingual means that our brain is developed in a different way. We actually understand things and can connect the dots differently than somebody that only speaks one language. So we're also trying to debunk this idea that having an accent is bad, because having an accent means you are bilingual, and that is a good thing. And then the third stereotype is that we are loud and we are casual, right? And yes, we are. But the thing that drives us to be loud and to be casual is that we are very passionate. And what is better than having a leader that can motivate people with her own passion? So again, these are things that in the corporate world are seen as, oh, she's a little too loud. We understand we have to tone it down. We have to be professional and present in an executive way. And we are giving the Latinas this playbook of don't lose your passion, don't lose what makes you unique, but also show up in a professional manner. So those are the stereotypes that we are having to debunk and make them positives instead of negatives.
It's really interesting to hear another side of life, if you will, especially in the business world.
There's something really interesting that happens to Latinas, and it may happen to other women, actually. So I think it's important that we share this broadly. Many women close doors many, many years before they need to be closed. For example, you're in your first job and you're thinking, oh, I'm not going to ask for that promotion because what if when I get married and I have kids, I don't have time to work this hard, so I'm not going to ask for the promotion. They do this 15 years before they are married, right? Like they do this in their first job. And when we ask the most senior Latinas if it's true, if it's very, like, how difficult is it to be a mom and be a C-suite? The answer consistently is we work maybe a little bit harder than we were working before, but we have so much more flexibility. So when you are a manager or a director or maybe even a VP and you have a family, if you have a meeting with your C-level and the soccer game of your kid, you're probably going to go to the meeting with the C-suite. If you are the C-suite and your kid has a soccer game, you're moving the meeting and you can go to the soccer game. So it's important to tell women not to close doors because they're afraid of what may happen in 10, 15 years, because the higher in the organization you are, the more flexibility you have. Of course, if you're the CMO and the CEO wants to meet, the CEO will take priority and he will have or she will have the flexibility to move the meeting for their kids.
Right, right. Always the chief cook and bottle washer can do whatever they want, right? Those under he or she, not so easily available to them. Please don't go away. More to come. This episode is brought to you by Try Coaching. Did you know that communication is one of the most important and effective skills you can have? What communication challenges hold you back from achieving higher positions, dealing with conflict effectively, and most importantly, realizing your dreams? If this resonates with you, please reach out and let's start a conversation so you can start communicating in ways that shift how you relate to others. I wanted to read what I took off of your website because I just love it. We are thrilled to be on this journey of inspiration, empowerment, and change. And We will showcase a trailblazing Latina at the top of some of the most successful organizations. We will learn from their inspiring journey and leave with actionable insights to apply every day at work. Join us as we challenge stereotypes, break barriers, and create a world where Latina women can thrive. So you're going into your third season. What has the impact been?
I mean, the feedback that we get from the women that listen to the podcast is just, it's everything, right? When somebody writes to you and tells you, I didn't think I was going to stay in corporate America. I didn't see myself there. And now I have a role model and a playbook. It's very emotional. I don't think we have reached the scale that we want. And that's what we want to do now. We want every Latina in the workplace to listen to this message. Most Latinas haven't found a La Latina, so we need them to find it. There is a lot of momentum in the Latino and Latina community to provide role models and to provide playbooks. What makes a La Latina different is that we are really getting access to the most senior Latinas in corporate America who don't have the time to do this. It's a shame, but let's not forget, they are moms and they're taking care of their elders and they are C-suite in corporate America. So it's hard to find content from them. And that was what we were really focused on. Let's get the most senior one. Why the most senior ones? Because the playbook that they give us, it's not the same playbook that gets somebody to become a manager or to become a VP. Becoming a C-suite, it requires a lot more strategy, consistency, reflection. That's why there's only 1% at the top. So we need the advice from that 1%. Thankfully, there's a lot of VPs, managers spending the time coaching and teaching the next generation. But we wanted to provide space for the true rock stars, those that are at the top of the top companies.
When you interview these trailblazers at the top and they talk about their careers and how they got there, when you look at the Latina population down below, how many actually can identify with this top level?
The advice they give is so relatable. So, I mean, I don't think every Latina wants to be a C-suite in corporate America. There's a lot of entrepreneurship in the community. Also, many Latina women may choose to work at home, which is like the hardest job ever, right? So they can do whatever it is that their economic situation allows them to do. But the feedback that we get from even college students is that they get the advice. The advice is very down to earth. It's things like, don't be obsessed with a promotion and be willing to take a lateral move if you can learn more about the company and it will propel you forward. Or get a sponsor. Find somebody in your company that you can work with that is not your manager, that is in the conversations that matter, so that person can advocate for you. Get a mentor. Find somebody that is like 2 levels above you, that has the job you want to get 2 years from now, and then meet with that person on a regular basis and get advice. This is advice that anybody can use. We're not giving advice on how to manage a P&L or how to sell a company. It's very actionable to climb the corporate ladder.
It's so inspiring. And what I just heard and I love is these trailblazers that you interview, they talk in very simple language, giving, I guess, inspiration and letting other Latinas know that if they choose, no matter how hard it is or how difficult it is, they too someday might be able to be at the top of the corporate ladder.
Exactly. That's the objective, to show them that it can be done, that somebody that looks like them, that sounds like them, that thinks like them made it so they can make it.
I'm so impressed with the work you're doing. Really, it's all about creating change and wanting to create change, wanting to make a difference, wanting to make an impact. in your corner of the world. And you are just doing that with this podcast. And, I know about podcasts that talking to people that were at a lower level at one point and chose to do the hard work. And that's what it takes, doing the hard work. And I have found that a lot of people don't want to do the hard work.
Yeah. I mean, I think we used to ask this question in the beginning. We have stopped because it became like everybody said the same, which was, what is the baseline? What do you have to succeed? And everybody said, I work harder than everyone else in my cohort. So that became the baseline. Like, if you don't work harder than everyone else, if you're not willing, when you're early in your career, when you don't have a family to take care of, when you're learning in learning mode, if you don't work super hard, there's no hack. We're not giving people the hack to get to the top. It's hard work.
Yes. In anything we want to accomplish is hard work. In this universe of diversity, DEI, how many companies are actually incorporating diversity by including Latinas, Black, or any Asian into their companies?
I mean, I don't have the number. I can tell you what I see kind of
right. Sure.
Anecdotally, which is the biggest companies incorporated, and it's hard to tell how much it is because they believe it's good for business and how much it is because it's almost an obligation. They don't want to get sued or whatever. But there are also cohorts of companies that really believe in the positive impact that it can have in a business, having diversity. And those companies generally have diversity at the top, because it takes just one person, one woman, one non-white executive to care, to kind of trickle down. We also have allies that are white men, but it's harder, I think, to drive change when there's no diversity at the top. As soon as there starts to be diversity at the top, you start seeing it trickle down, not just in the hiring practices, but also in the promoting practices, who gets to the top and who is seen as a high potential. Because if somebody, let's say that there's a conversation about who's going to be the next whatever, somebody's going to be promoted. And in the conversation of that promotion, there's a Latina up for the job and somebody else that's not Latina, let's use a white man or a white woman. And the group that is making the decision starts using stereotypes to describe why the Latina woman is not the right person for the role. It requires somebody that's either Latina or an ally that understands this, flipping the script to say, guys, yes, she's a little loud, but she's very passionate and she's a great leader. Like, it's good that she's so passionate. Or, yeah, she has an accent. It's not that she's not super smart. She has an accent. She's bilingual. So it requires a little bit of understanding what makes us unique to help the decision be made based on who's the best candidate and not based on who looks more like the previous candidate.
This has been so interesting and really so inspiring. And I'm wondering, as we start to wrap up, if you can leave us with a couple of takeaways that people can think about.
Yeah, the takeaway, either if you are a Latina or not, whatever the ethnicity that you identify yourself with, I encourage everyone to do your part to create a more inclusive work environment. I don't necessarily think that it has to be about quotas and about having employee groups that identify with a certain ethnicity, but actually about looking at yourself, at your own unconscious biases, doing the hard work that it takes to not be biased, because we all have those unconscious biases. I have them myself towards other ethnicities, right? So I encourage all of us to do the hard work that it takes to be truly inclusive and let everybody be their authentic selves. Because every minute that an employee of yours is spending trying to fit in, that person is not spending that time working. So you're paying for wasted time.
Beautiful. What a way to wrap up today. Cynthia, this has been so inspiring, so informative. So if anyone in the audience wants to contact you, please.
Yeah, so we have our website, alalatina.com. You can find there the links to our LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok accounts. There's also a form to submit a Latina trailblazer that you want us to feature in the podcast or in our social media in that website. And if you want to reach me, you can find me both on LinkedIn and Instagram, Cynthia Kleinbaum on both places.
Thank you so much for today and for this incredible conversation. I truly appreciate it. I know we've talked about this last year when we connected, and here we are now having this amazing conversation. Thank you so much for your time, Cynthia. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Terry. It was great having this conversation with you. And thank you for giving me the forum to talk about a topic that it's new to you and potentially new to some of your audience.
I get that perfectly. Keep creating change. We need it.
Thank you.
I hope this compelling and extraordinary conversation offered you thoughts on how you can create changes in your life. Reviews encourage people to listen to my podcasts. If you loved what you heard, please go to Apple Podcasts and leave a rating and review. For related content on extraordinary work, please visit my website, trycoaching.com. Meet Phil Janzewski, a Gen X, baking-loving, high-energy chemistry physics educator since 2005, and a nationally known dynamic speaker that is on a mission to create and spread happiness through education, motivation, and entertainment. You definitely don't want to miss this inspiring conversation.